this lesson is about factoring quadratic equations to solve for zeros. So first we're going to review how to factor quadratic equations, and then I will teach you the thing for today that's new, which is setting each factor equal to 0 and solving for the zeros of a quadratic equation. So we've been studying quadratic equations, we've been making tables and graphing parabolas. So we've been making tables and graphing parabolas. So parabolas look like this. And factoring to solve for zeros is going to tell us where our parabola would cross the x-axis if we were to graph it. Okay, so we're going to review factoring, like I said. So if you're looking at your notes for today's lesson, the first example looks like this. Okay, so the first example says x squared minus 3x minus 18. So when you got a quadratic equation like this, what we're going to do first is check to see, is there a number in front of x squared? Well, no, but it's implied that it's a 1. So first you check to see, is there a number in front of x squared? If there's no number there, you're going to look at the back number, which is negative 18. So we're going to write negative 18 over here to the side, and we're going to ask ourselves, what numbers could you multiply to get negative 18? And our goal is, we want two factors of 18, something that multiplies to be negative 18. We want it to add up to be negative 3. So I'm going to make you a list here of things you can multiply to get negative 18. And then we have to decide which two should we pick so that the factors add together to be the middle number of negative 3. So these will add together to be negative 3. So now we're going to write our factors, x plus 3 and x minus 6. Okay, now it's also important to note that you could write it x minus 6 and x plus 3, so the order can be switched. Okay, so that's number 1. Next, we're going to look at number 2. So I'm going to erase this. 2 says x squared plus 5x plus 6. So again, there's no number in front of x squared, so we're going to check out the back number, which is a 6. You're going to ask yourself, what could you multiply to get 6 that would add together to be 5? So I know that to get 6, to multiply to be 6, 2 times 3 is 6, and 6 times 1 is 6. So out of those choices, 2 plus 3 is the middle number 5, so we want to pick 2 and 3. Okay, so we're going to write x plus 2 and x plus 3. Okay, so that's it. Alright, so the third one says x squared plus 8x minus 20. So we're going to think about what could you multiply to get negative 20 that would add up to the middle number of 8. I'm going to make some, list out some choices here for you. Alright. So, do any of those choices add together to be 10? Negative 2 plus 10 is 8, so we want to write x plus 10 and x minus 2. Or alternatively, you could have written x minus 2 and x plus 10. Good. So that's number 3. So far, you check to see, is there a number in front of x squared? If there's not, you look at the back number, and then you list out factors of that number. You want to find 2 that would add together to be the middle number. Okay? So we're going to try one more like this, number 4. So number 4 says x squared minus 9x plus 20. Okay, so multiplies to be positive 20, adds up to be negative 9. Well, I know these things will multiply to be 20, but I need them to add up to be negative 9. So we also could multiply negative 4 and negative 5. That would multiply to be positive 20 and add together to be negative 9. Okay, so our factors are going to be x minus 4 and x minus 5. So that's how you factor quadratic equations if the number in front of x squared is 1. If you skip down to number 8, I will show you how to factor them if there's a number besides 1 in front of x squared. So we're skipping down to example 8. So example 8 says 3x squared minus 7x plus 2. Okay, so when there's a number in front of x squared, like this is a 3, you're going to start by multiplying the front number and the back number. So we're going to multiply 3 and 2 to get 6. Then we have to list out factors of 6. So here I go. 6 and 1, 2 and 3, negative 6 and negative 1, negative 2 and negative 2. Okay, do any of those choices add together to be negative 7, middle number? Well, yes. Those two, negative 6 and negative 1. Now, this is a little bit different than the last one because when it says 3 in front of x squared, we're not just going to write plain old x and then the numbers here for the factors. We're going to use 3x minus 6 and 3x minus 1. Okay, now, that's not the final answer because factoring is the opposite of FOILing. And if you ever want to check your factoring skills to see if you're correct, you can FOIL your answer back out to see if it matches the question. So just for fun here, this is what would happen if I were to FOIL this. Okay, so I FOILed it, and I got this. 9x squared minus 21x plus 6. That does not match what the question was. So that means I need to simplify my factors a bit. So we're going to go back, and I'm going to show you how to simplify. So before you can say the final answer, you need to check to see, can you factor, well, simplify / factor either one of your answers that you wrote here. So for instance, I know that I can divide both 3 and 6 by 3. So I'm going to divide both of these numbers here by 3, and that'll leave me with x minus 2. Now I can't divide both of these by anything except for 1, so I'm going to write this down just as it was, and that's the answer. And I'll even show you. I'll FOIL it back out for you here. Okay, so as you can see here, what I got after I FOILed my answer, it matched the question, so my answer is correct. And those are the factors that we want, okay? So, we're now going to flip over the paper, we're going to scroll down to the second page, and we're going to talk about the new part of today's lesson, which is after you factor, you're now going to take each factor and set it equal to 0 to solve for what we call the zeros of the quadratic function. Okay, so we're going to go to the second page of the notes. Alright, so I'm going to read to you what's in this box on the second page. Key concept, using factors to solve quadratic equations. Solving a quadratic equation gives us the zeros, or the spots where the graph will cross the x-axis. If the factored form of your quadratic equation looks like x minus 4 and x plus 2, equals 0, you then set each factor equal to 0 and solve for x. So here's what you would do. X minus 4 equals 0, x plus 2 equals 0. So then you add 4, and our first answer is x equals 4. Here you subtract 2, and our second answer is x equals -2. So the point of this is, I told you earlier, we've been graphing parabolas, quadratic equations. So this is where your parabola would cross the x-axis. So if you were to graph it, we would have 1, 2, 3, 4 on the x-axis, -2 on the x-axis, and your parabola would do something like this. Now that's just a rough guesstimation. That is not super accurate by any means, but it would in fact cross the x-axis at -2 and +4. Okay, so now we're going to try our examples. We're going to factor each quadratic equation, and we're going to then set each factor equal to 0 to find the zeros. Alright, so here we go. Part A says x squared plus 9x plus 20 equals 0. So completely ignore the equals 0 part till the end. We're focusing on the quadratic equation x squared plus 9x plus 20, and we're going to factor it. So there's no number in front of x squared, so we're going to look at the 20 at the back. You're going to tell me what you could multiply to get 20 that would add up to the middle number of 9. Okay, so that would be 4 and 5. So then, because there's no number in front of x squared, we're going to write x plus 4 and x plus 5. Now comes the time when we're going to bring down this equals 0. Okay. And then the next step is going to be to take x plus 4 and set it equal to 0. And then x plus 5 and set it equal to 0. And we're going to solve each one for x now. So 4. We get x equals -4, and we subtract 5, and we get x equals -5. Okay, so those are our two answers. So later on your homework, when you do your Google form, you will either type those in the box, or you will click the correct answer that has those. Okay, so that's a preview of what your homework will be. All right. I think we're ready for part B. So I'm going to erase this and we'll do part B. Alright, part B says x squared minus 11x plus 30 equals 0. Alright, so we're going to think about 30. So what could you multiply to get 30? That would add up to be -11. So I know 30 is 5 times 6. That would be +11 if I would add them together. So I need to make both these numbers negative because they multiply to be +30 and add together to be -11. Okay, so now we're going to write x minus 5, x minus 6 equals 0. Alright, next step. X minus 5 equals 0. X minus 6 equals 0. So you solve both of these for x, so we're going to have x equals 5, and we're going to have x equals 6. So that is part B. Now the last two are going to involve where we have to multiply the front number and the back number first, and then you have to remember to include the coefficient of the x squared term in your factors when you write it. Okay, so we're going to try part C now. Alright, part C says 6x squared minus x minus 2 equals 0. Alright, we're going to pause for 1 minute because I want to make sure that you know the middle number here is -1. So if it helps you, you can put a 1 right there so that you know you're trying to find two factors that would add up to -1. Now, be careful here because I know a lot of you want to just look at the back number and go to town trying to solve the problem. But if there's a number in front of x squared, you first have to multiply the front number and the back number, so that makes -12. and you're looking for factors of negative 12, that would add up to be negative 1. Okay, so that's going to be negative 4 and positive 3. Alright, so now we're going to write the factors. 6x minus 4, 6x plus 3 equals 0. Okay, now on the front page, we simplified these. So next step is to simplify. We're going to think about what number could you divide both 6 and 4 by. Those are both divisible by 2. So we're going to divide this by 2. We're going to have 3x minus 2. I could divide both of these numbers by 3. So that's going to leave me with 2x plus 1 equals 0. Right, so next step is to take each factor and set it equal to 0. Alright, so first you add 2, and then we will divide by 3. So first x is 2/3. Okay, second one. Subtract 1, then divide by 2. We have x equals negative 1/2. Alright, so there are two answers, 2/3 and negative 1/2. So far, hopefully that's making sense. You start with multiplying the front number and the back number. Think of factors of that product that would add together to be the middle number. Then you write your factors, then you simplify them if you can. Then you set each factor equal to 0 and solve it for x. Alright, we've got one more example and then I'll let you work on your Google form. Okay? I'm going to erase this. Okay, the last one says 15x squared minus 8x plus 1 equals 0. So 15 times 1 is 15. And two factors of 15 that add up to negative 8. That's negative 3 and negative 5. So then, because this is a 15, 15x minus 3, 15x minus 5 equals 0. Okay, so then we're going to divide both of these by 3. So 5x minus 1. Divide both of these by 5. So 3x minus 1 equals 0. Set each factor equal to 0, and then solve them for x. Okay, so first one is 1/5. Second one is 1/3. Alright, so your Google form will be exactly like the problems A through D on the second page of your notes. Of course, there'll be different numbers, but it's the same strategy. Okay, so if you need any help thinking of the factors, let me know, because I know that's a little bit tricky for some people. Okay, so if you need anything, please email me. I'll be here to help you if you need help, okay? So I'll see you next time. Bye.